Hey folks, today we're going to take a look at a game that is currently seeking funding on Kickstarter. That game is called Cooks and Crooks and is from Aether Tower. Now, if you like what you see throughout the rest of this preview video, I'm going to encourage you to go to the official Kickstarter project page. You can do so by following the link in the top corner of your screen, as well as down in the description section underneath this video. Now, Cooks and Crooks is a competitive game where you and the other players, as the name implies, are playing cooks who are not the most reputable cooks in the world. In that, yes, they are trying to make dishes. They're in competition with each other to make the best dishes and make as many of them as they can. But they're also trying to sabotage the other players in the best way that they can as well by putting garbage and even radioactive materials in other players' food as well. But sometimes there's radioactive material that's good for you. So before I go any further, let me go ahead and give you a brief look at how the game is played with a prototype version of the game. So please do bear in mind that what you see here in this version may change slightly in the final version, and that's why you should go to the Kickstarter project page and find out more information about what the final version will exactly be like. But in any event, let's go ahead and look at it, then we're going to come back and discuss it further. Cooks and Crooks is a competitive game for 2 to 4 players. Each player is a cook who is trying to make the best dishes and earn the most notoriety, while also trying to sabotage the competing cooks. The game takes place over the course of 6 rounds. At that point, whoever has the most points is the winner of the game. To set up the game, every player will take a different colored oven board with an accompanying chef. Ovens have a spot to place the current dish you are making and 7 spots to place your ingredients, and the trash that other players will try to sabotage your dish with. Set the rounds counter to 1. It will obviously move up at the end of each round. Shuffle the ingredient deck, then deal 3 cards to each player. Leave the rest of the deck within reach of all players, also leaving room for a discard pile. Likewise, shuffle each of the 5 different dish decks and place them around the ingredient deck. Players can then discard and redraw 1, 2, or all 3 of their ingredient cards once before the game starts. Then, each player will select the dish card and place it face up on their oven board in the appropriate slot. Finally, the ingredient deck is flipped up so that all cards, including the top card, are face up and visible before being drawn. Most of the cards in the ingredient deck are just that, ingredients that you'll use to make your dishes. Every dish requires multiple ingredients, and you'll hold them in hand until the time is right to use them. One of the cards is Mystic Seasoning, which actually counts as a wild card. However, the ingredient deck also contains trash cards. Other players will sabotage your dishes with these cards. If a dish is completed while it contains trash cards, each one will subtract from 1 to 3 points from your dish total. The last type of cards you might find in the ingredient deck are radioactive cards. Each one is keyed to a particular type of dish, as indicated in the bottom corner. If the radioactive ingredient is used in the proper dish, it's worth 5 points. But if it's in the wrong dish, it's worth negative 5 points. In this way, you might use the card on your own dish, but other players might also use it to sabotage you. There are 5 decks of dish cards: hamburgers, pizzas, burritos, soups, and shish kebabs. The back of each card will remind you of what 1, 2, or 3 of the ingredients must be, but the rest of the ingredients you'll need are a mystery until you draw the card. Once drawn, you will see these remaining ingredients, and then it's just a matter of getting the right ingredients and avoiding trash. Every dish is worth a certain amount of base points, and the more ingredients that are required to make it, the more points that it's liable to be worth, though this of course makes the dish even more time consuming to make. To begin the game, randomly choose a start player. Each round, every player will take a turn in clockwise order that consists of up to 4 steps. These steps can be skipped, but they must be done in order if at all. Step 1 is supplying the pantry. Discard as many ingredient cards from your hand as you like, or none at all, and then draw up to 3 cards from the deck. Your hand limit, however, is 7. The cards from the deck are face up so that the other players will see what you're getting. Step 2 is taking an action. You have 1 action you can take, but you have 3 options for that. The first option is a pantry raid. That's pantry raid. Take 2 random cards from an opponent, look at them, and either give them back or keep one of them and give back the other one along with one of your own cards. The second option for your action is oven theft. Take a card from the oven of another player and then replace it with a card that player still needs for their dish. You can't take radioactive cards used as an ingredient in this way. The last option is oven cleaning. Take a single card from your oven and put it in your hand. If your oven is full, you can actually take 2 cards instead. This is the best way to remove trash and radioactive ingredients that don't match your current dish. After taking your one action, you can move on to step 3, which is preparing your dish. Take up the 3 ingredients from your hand and add them to your oven. These ingredients must either be necessary ingredients for the dish, radioactive ingredients that match the dish, or mystic seasoning. As soon as the dish has all the necessary ingredients, it is scored. Take the dish card and keep it for the end of the game, along with any face-down trash or radioactive cards you had to have taken. All other ingredients are discarded from the oven. The final step is sabotage, or sabotage. Take a trash or radioactive card from your hand and place it face down in another player's oven, if they have space for it. After every player has a turn, the round ends and a new one begins. If it was the 6th round, the game ends and scoring occurs. Add up all your completed dish and good radioactive card points and subtract trash and bad radioactive card points to get your total. But if you had an uncompleted dish in your oven when the game ends, scoring is handled a little bit differently. Every valid ingredient in the oven, including a good radioactive card and mystic seasoning, is worth 2 points. Every trash card gives -1 point, regardless of what the actual number on the card is. Whoever has the most points at this point is the winner. That is Cooks and Crooks. Cooks and Crooks is that kind of casual game that has a very accessible theme. It is very fast to teach and to set up and to play as well. It does not overstay its welcome. And yet, at the end of all of that, there is a lot of strategy and real competition going on in the game. It's not just a very simple, just breeze through it. You have to make some very critical decisions. This is like a resource, it is a resource management and hand management game. You only have so many cards you can keep in hand, so many, just one dish at a time that you can be working on, and you have to very carefully consider, okay, I can go for a very easy dish, but it's not going to be nearly as many points as if I went for a more complicated one. But with a more complicated dish, that means I have to potentially wait longer to get the ingredients that I need. And the longer you wait to complete a dish, the more likely the other players are going to mess with you by putting garbage into your dish before you can complete it. On top of that, if other players really hammer you, they can fill up your oven, in which case you have to waste valuable time cleaning out your oven as well. You can do that every round, but you can only do 1 or maybe 2 if your oven is full. It's just another thing that's going to keep you from potentially completing your dish in a timely manner. And if you don't complete your dishes quickly, time starts to run out. There's only 6 rounds to the game. So every single thing that you do in this game, again, well, it might be simple, like, okay, grabbing cards, taking cards, putting them down. Every single one of those actions that you take is critical, because if you're held up around, another player might not be, and they might complete a dish, get just ahead of you in points if you're not too careful. The game can be very unforgiving, but then on the other end of it, by the end of the game, you can still get points if you haven't completed that last dish that you have out there. And you can always try to make it up by, if you do just a really simple dish in the beginning and it's like, oh, no, the other players have really gotten ahead of me. Well, I'm going to go for a pizza now and see if I can really bring this thing home. So you have options there, but again, every decision that you make just feels like it's a very critical thing. The game has very colorful art. Again, it's a very accessible theme. Who doesn't, get into cooking and cooking shows, especially since this is sort of I could easily see this game or something very similar to this being branded as a official Top Chef game or something in the future. Especially because they give... Is that the one where they give you weird materials? I don't know. I'm not up with my cooking shows. There's one where they give you a really weird thing to cook with. Maybe that's Chopped. But I was thinking about that with regards to like the radioactive material, which was interesting because that can be good or bad. If it's bad for you, give it to another player who's not going to need it for their dish, and then it's -5 points for them. If it's good for you, well, there you go. That's a benefit, but there's only 1 for each type of dish, so there's sort of a rare sort of unicorn card to go for. But in any event, if any of these things appeal to you, if you like the theme, if you like the accessibility of the game, almost said something else there, and if you just like the fact that it plays very quickly and it's sort of the kind of game that, it is a meaty game, it is a game, it's going to take a chunk of your time for a game night, but it's not so overly complicated and brain-burning that you're going to be exhausted after playing it. It's a good, like, in-between game. If any of those things appeal to you, definitely, you don't have to take my word for any of this, go to the official Kickstarter project page and find out more information for yourself. You can do that by following the link in the top corner of your screen, as well as down in the description section underneath this video. That is Cooks and Crooks from Aether Tower. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, for supporting our sponsors. Take care.